Okay, well, we will get started because it is 11 o'clock here in the Eastern Time Zone. So with that, I'd like to welcome you. My name is Stephen Chase with World Education Services. I'm delighted by the interest for today's webinar on life and opportunities in the province of Saskatchewan. We're also delighted to have Krista Ross from the Economic Immigration Unit in the Government of Ontario. I'm sorry, the Government of Saskatchewan, and I'm going to introduce her and look forward to the information that she's going to provide. I was in Saskatchewan not that long ago and hearing all the interesting things that are going on there, so I think the information Saskatchewan province a destination if you're not yet in Canada, or as another place to stop on your journey if you have already arrived in Canada. Myself, I'm not from Ontario, but that's not where I'm really from in Canada. But as you know, we actually look where opportunities exist, and from the sounds of what is happening in Saskatchewan these days, there's lots of opportunities. So I look forward to hearing from Krista. Just a first couple notes about today. The session is being recorded, so it will be shared afterwards with all that have registered. So if you have any technical issues, don't worry, you'll be able to watch this at your leisure. So make sure I check the sound is okay. Okay. Also, we're going to send out a post survey with that link to the recording. If everyone joining us today would be so kind, it's an opportunity for you to provide your feedback on today's session so we can make these even better for you. And as we go along, after Krista's presentation, we'll get to a question and answer session. So as she's speaking, if you have any questions, type them in the chat section. We're going to do our best to get to as many of the questions as possible, although there are often more than we have time to address, but we will do our best. So with that, I'll just tell you a little bit about Krista. Krista is the director of the Economic Integration Unit with the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. Krista's worked with the Saskatchewan Immigration for several years before moving to Ottawa, Ontario, to work with Citizenship and Immigration Canada for a 2-year secondment. And Krista has recently returned to Saskatchewan to her new role in immigration, and it is I think a fairly common. Krista, you can share some insights on that. I think that are from Saskatchewan often may go away for a period of time, but they often will go back as well, particularly with the opportunities that are happening these days in the province. So with that, Krista, I am going to turn you to the presenter, and you will be able to share your screen, and I will unmute you. And are you there, Krista?
I am here. You can hear me okay?
I can hear you great. I hope everyone else, everyone seems like the audio is working fairly well. So with that, please take it away.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Stephen. And I just want to wish everyone a very warm welcome and a good morning from Saskatchewan. It's 10 a.m. here on Wednesday, and we're enjoying a nice winter day. It's plus 5 degrees right now, so it's pretty good for Saskatchewan in December. And I'm really looking forward to having this hour to spend with you guys to talk to you a bit about Saskatchewan, the opportunities that we have here, and some options for immigration. So I'm going to talk a bit about, just help you guys to get more familiar with Saskatchewan, because I know we're not the most well-known part of Canada, give you a better sense of what's driving our economic growth, what kind of job opportunities we have here, and talk specifically about the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. So just to help you get a bit familiar with Saskatchewan, you know, one thing I want everybody to be able to answer after this webinar is, where is Saskatchewan? So we're located in Western Canada. We're in between Alberta and Manitoba. So we're part of the prairies. And I know a common question we get is, you know, where are we in relation to Toronto? So to give you a sense, if I wanted to go see Stephen in person, I would, if I left today, I could be there in 27 hours if I drove, heading east. Or, of course, if I wanted to fly, it would take me 3 hours to see him. So we're a large province land-wise. Interesting fact is that we're twice the size of Japan. And if I go to the next slide here, what makes that interesting is that our total population is just over 1 million people. whereas Japan's population is 127.3 million people. So you can, that really sort of gives you a sense of the kind of space we have here, the wide open spaces. And part of the reason that our motto, as you saw when you registered, is the land of living skies. So with these wide open spaces, we get some pretty spectacular sunsets. So as you can see, we've been experiencing population growth for the past 7 years or so. And much of this growth has actually been driven by immigration. So we have a very good economy right now. There's lots of job opportunities. So we're attracting a lot of people from overseas, but also people like myself who moved away for a short period to live elsewhere in Canada and have come home. So in the last 7 years, Saskatchewan has grown by more than 123,000 people. So I just want to give you a sense of some of the communities and centres we have in Saskatchewan. So I'm located in Regina, which is the capital city, so it's where most of our government offices are. So the population is almost 240,000. The largest city in Saskatchewan is Saskatoon, so that's about a 2-hour drive from Regina. The population there is almost 300,000 people. And here's communities that have seen a lot of growth in the last few years. So in the south, the 3 dots there, that represents Regina, Moose Jaw, and Swift Current. And the ones that are further up north, that's Saskatoon, Prince Albert, North Battleford, and Lloydminster. And just to get you a sense of, here's some nice pictures to give you an idea of what you'll see when you come to Saskatchewan. So we have a lot of forest land and a lot of agriculture. So if you go up north, that's where you find a lot of forests. And then the agriculture really is throughout the province. And we also have a lot of water. Now, I didn't actually know this fact until I was preparing this presentation, but we do have exactly 100,000 lakes in Saskatchewan. Now, just to talk a bit about our economy and to give you an idea of the kind of growth we've been experiencing. So we've been amongst the top 3 performing provinces for GDP growth. You can see it's 2.3% in the last 5 years. And what's driving that growth is really our mining and petroleum industry. So you can see we have a pretty diverse economy and quite a few different sectors with growth, but really it's mining and petroleum. And just to give you a sense of what's driving that is all the natural resources we have. So there's a lot of mining activity in uranium, potash, gold, and diamonds. And just to give you a sense of how affordable it is to live in Saskatchewan, we are an affordable area of Canada for sure. You can see in this chart that Regina is one of the most affordable cities in Canada in terms of the taxes you'll pay, household costs, and just general living expenses. So in 2014, a family of 4 with an annual income of $75,000 paid lower combined taxes, utility, and housing costs in Regina than in any other major Canadian city. And now to talk a bit about the opportunities, and we'll get into more specific information about how you can start looking for jobs in Saskatchewan. We do have the lowest unemployment rate in Canada. So I mentioned to you that we've been experiencing population growth, and that's really because of low employment. So that's creating a lot of opportunities for people in many different sectors across our economy. So we are at an all-time high for employment, and we're one of the fastest growing workforces in the country. And here's, we'll help you sort of put it in context if you look across Canada. As I said, we have one of, or the lowest unemployment rate, one of the highest employment rates, and we're seeing the largest growth in immigration. So there we are there with an unemployment of 3.5%, employment of 68.2%, and immigration growth of 131%. Okay, so we have been breaking workforce records for several years now. The province created more than 18,000 jobs in 2013, which is the highest number created in a one-year period since we've been recording this information. So this really shows that we have an economy that is broad-based and dynamic, and it's estimated that there will be 95,000 job opportunities in the province by the year of 2017. And this is where you want to go if you want to see what kind of jobs, specifically what kind of job opportunities there are. sasjobs.ca is the main job website for Saskatchewan. I just checked last night when I was just finalizing the presentation, and there were 11,000 jobs posted on that website. And that's from across the province and really across all sectors and occupations. So that's the best place to go to get a sense of what kind of opportunities are out there right now. And I just pulled some information based on the job listings on sasjobs.ca. So here's the top 20 occupations that have posted. So you can see there's a lot of tradespeople, and that goes back to what I was telling you earlier, that we have a lot of activity in mining and energy right now. So carpenters, welders, mechanics, but also certainly lots on the non-trades, the skilled professionals. So you see educators and social service workers, retail trade managers. So it's quite diverse, the opportunities we have here right now. So now we'll just move into a bit more about immigration. So I've already talked to you about, the population growth we've been experiencing, and that immigration is really the driving force behind it. Some of the numbers are really interesting. Like if you look at that, immigration has increased 443% from 2006 up to 2012. And this is really because just of our good economy and the job opportunities we have. So. And a lot of this growth is through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, which I'll be talking to you about in just a couple of minutes here. And I just wanted to give you a sense of where people are immigrating from. So you can see that Asia Pacific is our largest source region for newcomers. They made up 74% of all immigrants coming to Saskatchewan in 2012. The Philippines in 2012 was the top source country, making up about 30% of all newcomers. And also we had India, China, Pakistan were top source countries, and Ukraine and UK as well. And just one last interesting fact I'll share with you about that is that since 2007, we have welcomed newcomers from 185 different countries. So our population has really diversified in the last decade or so. And I also just wanted to give you a sense of where immigrants are going in Saskatchewan. So no surprise, they're going to our two largest centers where there's probably the most job opportunities. So this is, again, 2012 data, but we had 35% of newcomers were going to Regina and 39% were going to Saskatoon. So now I'm going to talk to you specifically about the Government of Saskatchewan and our approach and strategy for immigration and the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. So we developed an immigration strategy several years ago, really based on the core objectives of attracting skilled workers from around the world to support our economy, but also to retain those newcomers. So the main tool or program we have for attracting international talent is through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. We also work very closely with employers in the province and other stakeholder groups such as settlement agencies and cultural groups. So we have the SINP to bring, when I say SINP, I'm referring to the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. So we have that program to bring the people here, and then we've also invested a lot of resources into ensuring that communities and workplaces are welcoming of newcomers and that there are services in the community to help people settle. So it's quite a bit of work to bring people here, but we also want to make sure that everybody that we're inviting here is going to be successful and wants to stay, because it's about the long-term growth. So I just want to give you a sense of who we are and where we provide services. So the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program is within the Immigration Services branch. We have two offices. I'm located in our Regina office. We also have another small office in Saskatoon. And we're divided into 5 different units. So we have economic immigration, which is my area, and we're the ones that really do the SINP application processing. We have a specific unit for entrepreneur and farm, so they deal with the applications from people who want to come and start a business or purchase a farm. We have a unit that works directly with employers, and also they deal with mission planning. So we have a commitment, the government of Saskatchewan has a commitment to do 5 recruitment missions a year. So depending on where you are, you may be able to actually come and meet with us in person. We also have an immigration policy area, so they really are sort of the backbone of our operations, and then the program integrity unit. So this is a unit that was established, I believe, in 2009, and it's really to make sure that the rights of newcomers, foreign workers to the provinces, are being protected. And we all work together to make sure that the SINP is running smoothly and that it's meeting the needs of the economy and employers in the province. So now I'll talk to you a bit about specifically the SINP. So we operate under a shared agreement with the federal government, which is for immigration, it's Citizenship and Immigration Canada. Under this agreement, we are able to design our own immigration categories and programs to meet the economic and social needs of Saskatchewan. So we create these categories, people apply. If they meet the criteria, we can then nominate them to Citizenship and Immigration Canada for permanent residency. And we recently announced, just actually last week, that for 2015, we will be nominating 5,500 applications. So this is going to be our biggest year yet. And the growth in nominations are tied to CIC's new express entry system, which is being launched on January 1st. So I will touch on the express entry system just in a couple moments here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly touch on the process. So we have, so as of January 1st of 2014, we moved to a completely online application system. So you can go online to read about the criteria, and then you can also submit your application online. So you start applying online, you can scan and upload all of your documents to demonstrate that you meet the criteria and the other documents you need for immigration purposes, like birth certificates, passports, types of documents. Once you receive your complete online application, we'll then assess your application to ensure you meet criteria. And then, as I said, if approved, then nominate you to Citizenship and Immigration Canada for permanent residency. If you are coming to Saskatchewan with a job offer, we can also help you to obtain a temporary work permit so that you can come to Saskatchewan and start working while your application for permanent residency is being processed. Because depending on where you're applying from, the application for permanent residency can be quite a long process. So if you have an employer in Saskatchewan waiting for you, we want to help you and the employer to get you here as soon as possible to start working. So once you submitted your application for permanent residency, CIC, they still review it, and they do checks for health, criminality, and security, and they ultimately make the final determination on whether or not you will get permanent residency. And this, I just want to note that the process would include your spouse and dependent children that you had. So here's a quick breakdown of the different categories we have under the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. And again, all this information is on our website, and I will be providing the link in the later slide. So we sort of have it broken down into 2 broad categories. So we have the labor market categories and then the business categories. And the business categories are specifically for people who want to come and start a business or purchase a business in Saskatchewan, or for farmers who want to purchase a farm. Under the labor market categories, we have the international skilled worker category, and then the Saskatchewan experience category. So the Saskatchewan experience category is for people who are already working in Saskatchewan on some type of temporary work permit. And within that category, we have several subcategories. So we have one for health professionals, for skilled workers, as I said, already working in the province, for international students who have completed their studies here and are now working. We have one for long-haul truck drivers. It's a pilot project, and a pilot project for a limited number of occupations in the hospitality sector. So I'll go into a bit more detail about these categories. First, I'll just talk about the international skilled worker. So this is for skilled workers who obviously want to live and work in Saskatchewan. So you can apply to this category from outside of Canada, or if you are living in Canada and have legal status here, you can apply from within Canada. So a quick breakdown of the criteria. We do have a points assessment grid. So you must score a minimum of 60 out of 100 points on that grid. You get points. It's similar to the skilled worker grid, if you've looked at that one. So you get points for language, for work experience, for your education, and for any ties you may have to the province, like if you've worked here in the past or if you've studied here in the past. You need to have at least 1 year of work experience in your intended occupation. We do have minimum language requirements of the Canadian Language Benchmark 4. And if you go onto our website, there's information about how to convert, say if you've taken an IELTS exam, how to convert that into a Canadian language benchmark score. For people who may be in a regulated profession, there is a requirement that you have licensure to be able to work in that profession before you immigrate. So that's really for for nurses and doctors, engineers as well. And this is for people generally who have a job offer from a Saskatchewan employer. And this has to be a skilled job offer, a full-time permanent job offer. Within that, we do have a small number of spaces that or applications that we take in each year for people with high skills, but that don't have a job offer from an employer in Saskatchewan. So these are really targeting, people with high human capital who have work experience in an occupation that we consider to be in high demand. And we start accepting these applications for those without a job offer at the beginning of every year. So we've already met our maximum for 2014, so we'll start accepting these applications again at the beginning of January 2015. So now let's just touch a bit on the Saskatchewan experience category. And as I already mentioned, this is for people who are already working in Saskatchewan on a temporary work permit. Most often, this is a temporary work permit that is supported by a labor market impact assessment, meaning an employer has gotten a labor market impact assessment and brought you here as a temporary foreign worker. So those work permits are, for somebody for a specific occupation in a certain location for a specific employer. But we also have the international students category. So that's for people who have graduated and are now working on a postgraduate work permit. And we also take applications from individuals who have qualified for open work permit, which is through, we have a program, International Experience Canada. So the basic criteria for all of the subcategories under Saskatchewan Experience is that you've been working in Saskatchewan for at least 6 months on a temporary work permit, and your employer is now offering you a permanent job. So for the existing work permit subcategory, it's for people working in a skilled occupation or designated trade. For health professionals, this is really for nurses, doctors, and other skilled health professionals that are fully licensed and have been practicing in the province for at least 6 months. As I said, international students are for international grads who are working in their field. And then we have the hospitality pilot, which is very limited in scope. So this is for food counter attendants, kitchen helpers, and housekeeping staff. And then, of course, we have the long-haul truck driver category, which is for long-haul truck drivers. I'll just briefly touch on the entrepreneur and farm category. So the entrepreneur category is for people who want to come to Saskatchewan, want to establish or purchase a business in the province. And just to note that the entrepreneur category is not currently accepting applications. They are redesigning the program, so it's going to be launching again in early 2015. So it's going to look different than what it does now, but the core concept is still the same. It's still going to be for people who want to come and purchase a business and actively manage a business. And then we also have the farm owner category. So that's for people who have experience in farming and have sufficient capital to invest in a farming operation in the province. So we have a new category that we're launching in 2015. This has to do with the new express entry system that CIC is launching on January 2nd. So if you follow immigration news at all in Canada, I'm sure you've heard about express entry. It's making big news right now, but basically it's a new application management system. So they're getting rid of the old system they had of basically processing applications on a first-come, first-served basis. And now they're creating a pool of candidates that they're going to be drawing from. And provinces are going to have access to this pool and be able to nominate a certain number of people through express entry. So for Saskatchewan, as I mentioned, we are going to have 775 nominations that will be going through express entry. And we're going to be creating a new category specifically for that, and that's going to be called the Saskatchewan Express Entry subcategory. So we just announced the creation of the new category. We haven't released the criteria, but that's going to be made available on our website January 2nd. And then we're going to start accepting applications in early 2015 for the express entry subcategory. So it is going to be for skilled workers who are already in the express entry pool. So I provided the link there if you want to get more information about express entry and how to get into that pool. And then please come back to the website on January 2nd to learn what our criteria is going to be. So I just wanted to briefly touch on our legislation just to make sure that people are aware of it, because it is important. So last October, Saskatchewan proclaimed the Foreign Worker Recruitment and Immigration Services Act to protect all foreign nationals during the process of being recruited or immigrating to Saskatchewan. So under the legislation, foreign worker recruiters and immigration consultants are now required to be licensed by the government of Saskatchewan, and all employers recruiting foreign workers to Saskatchewan must be registered with us. And this really goes back to what I was saying earlier about the priority we place on retaining newcomers. So it's important that people are coming to a welcoming place, but also to a safe place. So we have this legislation in place so we can prevent mistreatment and maintain the integrity of our immigration program. On a similar note, I'm just going to talk about settlement services, which really goes along with retention. So just to give you an idea of what our settlement delivery model is, it really focuses on community-based responses and having flexible and accessible services. The model really centers around these 11 regional gateways that we've created. The gateways are the first point of contact for immigrants, so they can help newcomers understand how to access settlement services and sort of the basic services that they need. So the gateways provide info and referrals to other services. They have over-the-phone interpretation, and each gateway serves a 150-kilometer radius around the gateway center. So if you go onto our website, you can see exactly where the gateways are located, and we've made sure that all areas of the province can access this service. And I just wanted to now give you an idea of how immigrants are doing in Saskatchewan. So as I said, we want to make sure that we're inviting people here who are going to be coming to a welcoming place, but who are also going to be successful and want to stay. So through formal evaluation, we know that our retention rate is very high. So it was at 88% in 2010, which was the last formal evaluation we've done. And their outcomes in terms of employment and earnings are some of the best amongst all immigration categories. And I'll just move to the next slide here just to give you a better sense of how it breaks down. So you can see for immigrants to Saskatchewan, their unemployment rate is 3.4%. So very similar, actually a little bit better than for those born in Canada. And then if we look at just Canada-wide, unemployment for immigrants that have been here for 5 years or less is 14.1%. So I think this is a really good news story for Saskatchewan. It shows that newcomers are coming here and their skills and qualifications are being recognized, and they're finding employment that is commensurate with their skills. So I've left our contact information on there. So this is the end of my presentation. But before I turn it over to questions, I was just going to share a video or two with some testimonials from people who immigrated to Saskatchewan, so you can kind of get that first-hand experience or perspective. So the first one is Gerard Butler, and I will let you him tell you his story.
My name is Gerard Burke, and I'm from Ireland. I saw the opportunity. I saw the potential to have my own business, and that's what Saskatoon has given me. We've been here for 5.5 years now, so it's grown. Very similar to Irish mentality. I find the people here get very invested in you. So once you're fair and honest and straight with them, that's a pretty good relationship. The economy here has been great. As a business trying to start up, myself and my business partner were both journeyman terminals from Ireland, so we trusted we knew what we could do. So we got into business, and through that, through our quality of work, we've been fortunate to meet more and more people, and we've developed a good name in the city. If you're willing to work, it's a decent place to work. It's big enough that you have everything, yet it's small enough that I'm finding people start recognizing, yeah, you're coming back.
So just one more video for you guys. Actually, I'll just point out the website too. If you go onto YouTube and Think Sask, there's a whole bunch of videos that you might be interested in watching. So I'm just going to play one more for you though.
When my wife, Sabine, and me thought about going to a foreign country, of course, we had lots of concerns. After we moved to Regina, we actually laughed about our concerns. Regina is just one of the best spots ever. Saskatchewan in general, the economy is really, you can feel how the economy booms here. People are hungry to build, people want to build big, nice, beautiful homes, people want to create something, people want to find whatever is buried in the grounds, you know, like they start getting potash out, they start finding all those diamonds and stuff, so that's really exciting. Our school is like 2 blocks away, like we can almost walk to school. Our daughter goes there to school. It is a really good school, really beautiful school. Our daughter is in very good hands there. We have lots of museums in Regina. You can see lots of interesting things. We have lots of nice parks here, like Bascana Park is like a stone's throw from here away. I'm contractor, so for me, Saskatchewan is like paradise. Application for new building permits in Regina doubled from last year. They already doubled the year before, so we have a really, really good construction economy in Regina. I love that work because I got to interact with lots of customers. I love to see things growing. I love to develop ideas for my customers. I love to see how their dreams come true. The good part about Regina is you don't have to work 2-3 jobs. You can, with that, spend more time with your kids, which is probably the most important thing for anybody. When I think about my future in Saskatchewan, I'm not worried at all because I know Saskatchewan and Regina are going to keep growing as they do. I'm not worried about the future of my kids because they're going to go in great schools, they're going to study here. When I think about my future and about my dreams, I actually live my dreams already.
Okay, so again, here's our contact information. I understand you'll be getting a copy of the presentation, so please feel free to give us a call or email us with any follow-up questions. And like I said, all the information, at least all the information on the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program that I talked about is available on our website. So with that, Stephen, I guess if we want to start some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. Thanks so much, Krista. I was looking forward to seeing all the information because even I am not familiar with all the great things that are happening out there. So it's good to have this available to people now and in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So a few questions. Perhaps one was, is the program different than the federal skilled worker program? And you may have touched on that. Is the process different? And I guess with express entry coming online in January, it might be even a little bit more complex than it is now. But was that covered in what you addressed there?
So we have an international skilled worker category. We do have a points grid similar to the federal skilled worker program, but how we award points, I would say, is quite different. So, you know, the federal skilled worker, they look at higher language requirements than what we have right now. So I think, you know, if somebody were to not make the minimum points on the federal skilled worker program, I think they would, you know, they would still have a very good chance of meeting the minimum points in our grid, because we look for a 1 year of work experience. We look for, you know, at least a 1 year certificate in some occupation. We look at CLB4, and then, but we also really look at if they have a job offer from somebody in Saskatchewan, they get 30 points right there. So there's half the points you need to get the 60. And then we also award points if they have family members in the province, if they've worked here before, if they've studied in the province before, because that all helps with their retention, right? And then for express entry, so as I mentioned, we are going to be creating a new category for express entry. We're going to be nominating 775 people in this category. But nothing is changing with everything we're doing outside of express entry. So we're still going to have this international skilled worker category. We're not changing the criteria or the points grid. But we are going to be having a points grid for those 775 that are going through express entry, and that's going to look like more like the federal skilled worker program and the federal skilled trades program, just because that's basically a requirement of you know, for them to go to through express entry. So our express entry category for the 775 is going to look a lot more like the federal programs, but nothing is changing with all of our current categories.
Well, that's perfect, because someone just asked a clarification point on that, which I think you covered perfectly. Okay. We have a range of occupations, people with occupations joining us today. A couple small questions, and then maybe we'll get into kind of the major trends that are happening in the province. One question was around engineer opportunities, and specifically mechanical engineers, and also another one was around manufacturing and manufacturing management and opportunities such as that in the province.
Mm-hmm. Just so I'm wondering what kind of opportunities there are?
Well, what's the outlook, I guess, if you will, in terms of the labor market there?
So the best place to go, I mentioned the one job website we have, which is saskjobs.ca. And yeah, as I mentioned before too, you know, a lot of our activity right now is in mining and energy. So certainly for mechanical engineers, there's opportunities. The only thing I would add to that is that in Saskatchewan, well, in Canada, engineering is a regulated profession. So in order to work and call yourself an engineer, you do need to have the proper licensure in place. So for Saskatchewan, the organization that people would want to get in touch with is the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists, and they can help people through that process in terms of you know, getting the proper licensure in place. And for manufacturing, we don't have a large manufacturing sector. I'll just go back to the one slide I had with the different sectors we have. I think it was near the beginning here. Yeah, so you can see manufacturing there is 7% of our GDP. So it wouldn't be where we have the most demand for skills, but certainly for mechanical engineering, you know, there's a lot of opportunities in the mining and energy sectors.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, there's a question that just came in about IT, and I guess IT would be behind all of those to some extent. So IT in Canada is a relatively good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, you know, there's all those companies and government departments, they all have IT functions, right? So, so certainly exactly. There's opportunities there.
And your point about licensure, about being engineers is an important one. And even we, you know, I think there's a couple notes to mention about that. with many firms that would hire engineers, they in fact may only need a few people out of all of their employees that would be engineers to be licensed to sign off on certain documents. So depending upon what you want to do, the opportunities, just make sure you know what the opportunities do exist and where you might want to go. If you need a licensure, but to do a sign off on documents, things like that, you do need the license. But perhaps not all employers would need that for the type, depending upon the type of work that you're doing. And also on that point, we had a session earlier this week on financial services, which was also a question about someone has a financial banking background, an MBA with 6 years experience, and banking across Canada is relatively healthy. It's stronger in different areas. I'm not sure about Saskatchewan. Maybe they should check out that site that you mentioned to find the specifics. But in that presentation, they talked about looking beyond the label and that, for example, we were talking about insurance careers, and that someone that practiced as a nurse before coming to Canada could potentially integrate into insurance as it relates to health insurance because of the knowledge and skills that they bring. So it's important to keep all of your options open, particularly in these big life moments when you try something new. But the other thing I was going to ask you would be, what tips would you have for people that I guess are about to arrive, or for those that are already in Canada that may consider a move to Saskatchewan? I guess you talked a little bit about doing pre-arrival investigative work, and then, but for example, if you move from a different part of province, part of the country, you may not have a job. So what would you say for a newcomer would be probably the best first steps in, I guess, the latter scenario?
So definitely, if you're starting to think about moving to Saskatchewan and trying to figure out what kind of opportunities there are, that job website I gave you is the best place to really get a sense of what those opportunities are, so saskjobs.ca. Like I said, there's currently about 11,000 jobs posted on there from across the province, so that's sort of the best indicator of what kind of opportunities you might find. And in terms of arriving and actually trying to, get the lay of the land, the best place to start is the regional gateways. So we have 11 of them around the province, and they are really, that's sort of their purpose, and why they exist is to help people who are just arriving to Saskatchewan to make sure that they have the information they need, and can help provide them with at least referrals to where they need to go in terms of, getting a health card or a social insurance number and that kind of thing. But also other resources in the community if they need help with housing or, enrolling their kids in school, and if they need to take language classes to improve their English, or, put them in contact with employers or employment agencies. So really the regional gateways are the best place for you can contact them before you arrive to start getting that information. But when you arrive, it's really the best place to go.
Okay, great. There was one question around the cap for the smaller group of people coming without a job offer, and that through one of the categories. I think it was the SINP one.
Yeah, so we just a question on the cap?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's so we have caps on all of our categories. We call them application intake thresholds. So we only have a certain number of applications we can nominate every year. So to make sure that we don't build our inventories up too much, and to keep our processing times reasonable, we only take in so many applications every year. So under our international skilled worker category, we take in approximately, I think it's 4,500 applications from people who have skilled job offers already from somebody in Saskatchewan. And then within that same category, in 2014, we set aside, or we took in 250 applications for people with, skills, but that don't already have a job offer in Saskatchewan. So that 250 was, the cap was reached very quickly early on in January. So we're going to be resetting that, opening up all the categories again, resetting our intake thresholds for January 2nd, 2015.
Okay, great. We had another one that was, there was a question around, do they need to submit, create an application for the SNIP and express entry, or is it the same? I think the answer is that they're separate, right?
Yeah, they're very separate. So if you want to apply to the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, you go onto our website and you apply online directly to us. So it's very separate from express entry. Even for the express entry, the Saskatchewan express entry category I mentioned, for those people, if you want to go through that category, you first have to go online and get into the express entry pool. But even after you're in the pool, you still have to go onto our website and apply online directly to us.
Okay, great. A follow-up to your program, will the in-demand occupation list, do you foresee it, do you know if it would be changed in 2015?
It won't be changed significantly. So there might be some slight tweaks to it, I'll say, but it's not going to be changing significantly.
Okay. Language question about IELTS. What's the threshold for Saskatchewan? I guess that depends on under which program you're applying, right? Because you talked about one program, it might be a little bit lower.
Well, so if you look at our categories, the minimum is Canadian language benchmark level 4. It's going to be a bit higher when we launch the Saskatchewan Express Entry subcategory. But that's because it's going to have to align more with federal requirements. So if you're familiar with their program, for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, you need a Canadian Language Benchmark 7. But for the SINP categories, as they are right now, it's a Canadian Language Benchmark Level 4. And I don't know off the top of my head what that sort of equates to for IELTS and CELPIP, but we do have that information on our website. So if people have taken one of those tests before, they can go on our website and figure out what their test results equate to on the Canadian Language Benchmark grid.
Great. And I guess a question around application process. All the information would be on the website, correct?
Yeah, so we have information on each category. We have an application guide for each category, and that really goes through quite detailed the criteria and the application process. And as I think I briefly touched on it, but it's basically a two-step process. So people go online and apply to us to one of the SINP categories. If they meet criteria and we approve the application, we nominate them to CIC for permanent residency. So after that nomination, they still have to make an application to CIC for permanent residency.
Okay. There was someone who received 65 and didn't make the 67-point mark by 2 points, and they said they were interested in Saskatchewan. So. Okay.
Well, great. Yeah, have a look at our website. As I said, if you go into the application guide for the international skilled worker category, it has a breakdown of the points grid.
Okay. Sorry, another language question. Someone has a CLB7, but it was 2 years ago. Do they need to take the test again? I guess it depends on the program, I guess, huh?
Yeah, the language test results can't be more than 2 years old.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So that's SAP, and that's also a federal requirement too, just so they're aware.
Right. And should anyone want to know about credential academic assessment, they should be good for, I believe, 5 years after they were completed. So I will double check and confirm that. You mentioned about the success of newcomers in Saskatchewan, and I mean, there's even research that suggests that newcomers that settle in smaller urban centers across Canada can fare better than those that are choosing larger cities. So I don't know, do you have any comments on that type of experience? You know, you mentioned about the numbers, but what do you think, some backstory around why the success is? Is it strictly the low unemployment rate?
Well, it's, you know, we have a very tight labor market. So for people with skills and education, it's a good place to find a good job. So that certainly is a big contributing factor, just the fact that, you know, employers are having to look outside of Saskatchewan to find the people they need. But it also goes to, you know, what you just said in terms of smaller communities, smaller cities. It's easier for newcomers to kind of enter a smaller community and figure out what resources are available to them, and to build a network within that community. So it's been great. You know, Saskatchewan has really embraced immigration. I think everybody recognizes that we need immigration, that it's vital to our continued economic growth, and people are really embracing the diversity that it's bringing.
Great. Just looking through the questions a bit more. There was one around accounting opportunities. Again, I guess the best thing is to check out that SAS job piece, but I do want to reiterate that point about making sure people that are coming to be it Saskatchewan or anywhere in Canada, they should keep your options open. That financial service session we had, and I'll put that in that the other day, that there's a lot of accountants here in Toronto, and perhaps it would be tough to get into that specific occupation, whereas all the skills an accountant would have would be transferable to different careers in financial services. So it's something to keep in mind. Looking through. Interesting. This is, it's always important to keep this topic in mind as we are Canadian. The question about French in Saskatchewan. I'm not sure if they're doing it because if it's a requirement, but they're interested to know, would that benefit them in Saskatchewan? And I know there are different, across Canada, different pockets of French-speaking communities, and I don't know about Saskatchewan. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So just so people know, in terms of our requirements for the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, we look for Canadian language benchmark in English or French. So we do take both. In terms of the Francophone community, it is small in Saskatchewan, but we certainly do have one. I think I was actually just participated in, it's an annual event called Destination Canada. So I was in Paris and Brussels just last month on, it's basically a job fair in Paris for 3 days and Brussels for 1 day. So we had a booth set up there, so we really got a chance to meet with people, and I became more familiar to that process with with our Francophone population here. So we do have, if I recall this correctly, about 20,000 Francophones living in Saskatchewan. So there definitely is a community there, a small one, but a growing one. And just also maybe something important to clarify is that the working language in Saskatchewan is English. So it is important to be able to work in English, but certainly for somebody who is bilingual, that's definitely an asset from an employer perspective. So it's a great skill to have for sure, but just the reality is that the working language in Saskatchewan is English.
And again, you also have to look at where your interests are and where you hope to find work. If you're looking to work in the civil service, if it's for the federal government, having those French skills is a certain, well, it's a requirement. There's some minimums that you need to have, so it's important to do your research as to what your employer's requirements would be. Another process question around the SINP and Express Entry. So someone would need to fill out an application for both of those, but not for, if I'm correct, your subcategory of Express Entry. Is that correct?
So they would still have to do an application. So for the Saskatchewan Express Entry subcategory, they need to fill out an application or register online to get into the Express Entry pool. If they're able to get into that pool, then they have to go onto our website and apply online to us.
Okay, very good. Another question about that. Can one person apply to both the SINP and Express Entry at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. If for somebody, so this really would make sense for people who don't already have a job offer in Saskatchewan. So they can apply, try to get into, that small group of international skilled worker people that we accept without a job offer, and try to get into the Express Entry pool. That is definitely an option. But we only allow somebody to have one application with the SINP. I know we've gotten a couple questions to say, can I try to get into the international skilled worker without a job and to your Sask Express Entry subcategory, but we'll only take one application, so people need to decide which SINP category they would want to apply to.
Okay, very, very good. Okay. We're almost out of time. I guess maybe just any last thoughts, Krista, before we wrap up?
No last thoughts, but I just wanted to thank you, Stephen, for initiating this and approaching us with the opportunity. And I'm happy to take any follow-up questions that might come through. Please do visit our website for more information, and feel free to get in touch with us directly if there's any other follow-up questions.
Perfect. Well, I very much appreciate a lot of new and interesting information for me and probably for everyone that joined us as well. So I know you're very busy out there these days with all that's happening and the growth that's happening in the province. So thank you for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks. So we will be sending out the recording to everyone, and please fill out the post survey that will come along with that. And we thank you for joining us.